All right, y'all, welcome back to Problematic Women. I'm Chris Silvana.
I'm Virginia Allen.
I'm Elise McHugh.
And I'm Morgan McMichael, a TPUSA contributor.
Yay! We're all, have the whole crew
The
back
gang's
together
all
again.
here.
The gang is all
Gang's
here.
back.
So there was a funny tweet that President Trump sent. He was, I think, on the plane on the way back from his Middle East trip. And he sounded off about Taylor Swift.
Quote, he said, "Has anyone noticed that since I said, I hate Taylor Swift," all caps, by the way, all caps, she's no longer hot?
Spicy.
Spicy. So the question of the week is Taylor Swift still hot?
As a Swiftie,
I am a reformed Swiftie, I have to admit.
Reformed?
Reformed Swiftie. I used to be a diehard, went to the Eras tour twice.
Really?
Like,
You were diehard.
hardcore. I actually just put together all of my Taylor Swift memorabilia and put it in a box and put it in my closet and was like, this, my future daughters will like this, but I don't think I need it on display anymore. I will say, I feel like since her tour kind of ended, she has fallen off a little bit. No one's really talking about her in the news. She's not trending anymore.
I mean, honestly, though, I think that's okay because if hypothetically, if she's leaning into this relationship with Travis Kelce and they're like building some kind of foundation of a life together,
Yes.
I think it's good for her to kind of take a step back from the world stage.
Are we starting rumors about like
There was
they're
that
secretly
rumor that she was
engaged?
pregnant. They
She's
were secretly
pregnant.
engaged. I was like, oh my gosh.
I think this is all part of a grand scheme. Her silence, these hate tweets from Trump, like everyone just kind of like weaning off of her massive fame. I think this is all just like a big PR thing for Reputation, Taylor's version. And I think of a version of Look What You Made Me Do is in The Handmaid's Tale randomly for some reason recently. So
missed
I am
that.
patiently waiting for that because every time I think I'm done with Taylor Swift, she releases a new album and I'm like, you know what? I'm back. You pulled me back in.
Yeah.
Well, and she is the marketing queen. Like,
I fall
she
for it every
knows
time.
how to
I know.
lure people in.
Well,
and
the
have
Easter eggs,
conversations. The Easter
she
eggs.
will get her fans on a spiral every single week if she wanted to, and releasing hints and clips. Like, she is very meticulous with how she does things. So maybe you're right. You know, it's all very intense. I feel like she never does something that isn't intentional.
Very true. She knows exactly what she's
a
doing.
mastermind.
We see you, Taylor Swift. Well, for those joining us for the first time or for our returning problematic women, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you with us. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. We are fighting against all the algorithms. So when you leave us comments, when you follow us, wherever you're listening, whether you're on the Daily Signal YouTube channel or you're listening across podcast platforms, let us know what you think about the show. If you have topic ideas, things you want us to weigh in on, always feel free to DM us on the Problematic Women Instagram account. We love hearing your feedback. So thanks so much for being with us today, whether you're listening or whether you're watching. We so appreciate you being with us. All right, without further ado, let's jump into our tea time here.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw, but this week, Melania and Trump walking hand in hand, which I just love their
it's the cutest.
romance and chemistry, walked into the White House Rose Garden, and Melania spoke about the Take It Down Act. And I know that one of her initiatives, or her initiative with this presidency with her husband, President Trump, is Be Best. And so this was a huge part of that initiative. And the Take It Down Act is a new law that criminalizes non-consensual intimate images and protects against AI deepfakes, which I feel like we've seen a lot more stories lately of AI deepfakes, you know, that sexually explicit content of young girls. It's protecting children and women primarily, which I think is great. And one thing that I loved about this act that President Trump signed on, what was it, Tuesday? Monday, Tuesday? Can't remember
Earlier
what
this week.
Earlier this week.
It's been a week.
This truly was a bipartisan law that is now in place. It was put forth by Senator Ted Cruz and then also Democrat Amy Klobuchar, thank you. And so it's been bipartisan since the start and then passed through Congress. Pretty much everyone voted on it in the right direction, which I think is incredible, is like really safeguarding women and children online. You know, there's so much that we don't know of what the future is to hold with AI. We see deepfakes all of the time. What is real, what is not, and holding these big tech social media companies accountable for what is going on their platforms, especially when it is illegal. So, you know, giving them 48 hours of if a victim reports it to take it down, I think is monumental.
Yeah, it's critical. Well, and we have a clip we want to play of Melania in that rose garden giving those remarks. So let's go ahead and roll that.
As First Lady, my Be Best initiative is focused on improving children's well-being, encouraging kindness, and creating a safer online environment for our youth. Today, I'm proud to say that the values of Be Best will be reflected in the law of the land. I want to thank my husband, President Trump, for standing with us on this effort. His signature on this new law is not where our work ends on this issue. Now we look to the Federal Trade Commission and the private sector to do their part. Today, through the Take It Down Act, we affirm that the well-being of our children is central to our future of our families and America.
So like you said, Morgan, I think it's something that was really encouraging to see bipartisan support on, because there's not a lot of that these days. But this is something that we were speaking about Taylor Swift a second ago that we know has happened to Taylor Swift, a number of celebrities, even just on the AI front. I don't know if you all have experienced this, but it's getting increasingly challenging with a lot of like short form videos, reels and stuff. Often you're like, wait, is that real? I don't actually, the technology is just that good. And I have definitely gotten pulled into some like super cute animal reels. And then I'm like, by the end of it, I'm like, that's not possible. That was AI.
It's like there needs to be some sort of disclaimer. Like now I've seen a lot of content of like generated with AI or adding something in. But even when you think about like women and children with the non-consensual content, like the fact that that is out there online and being traded and sold and really harming real people. Like it's not all fake images and things, like they're altered to be artificial intelligence created. But it's really scary of like, what is to come in the next, not just 4 years, but our lifetime as technological advances continue, of how can the government, being conservative, I don't necessarily want more government control and overreach, but how can we protect our citizens from content like this?
And it's so important. It's such an important piece of legislation because you see these big tech companies, websites that host really explicit content. They say that you can report stuff, that you can flag stuff as inappropriate, illegal. But the fact of the matter is they don't actually take action on it quick enough. And if they do, it can go right back up and they won't really do anything about it because it makes them money. So again, conservative, we don't want to have government overreach, but it is the role of the government to protect the most vulnerable, women and children. And this is exactly that. And it's so necessary. And it's so refreshing to see a first lady have an initiative that is so relevant. It's very practical. It's very practical. It's going to be super great for the future with AI, since we don't really know what that's like. And it's just awesome to see her attacking such a modern problem.
Yeah. I mean, it really is legislation for our time, right? Like this wasn't a thing when I was in middle school or high school, but no matter what, at the end of the day, there's always predators out there that are looking to prey on our children. And Senator Ted Cruz, to your point, Morgan, championed this bill on behalf of a young woman from Texas who was a victim of this. And her story is insane. It's heartbreaking. And she's one of many. And we're learning about thousands of these instances across the country. So it's really neat to see, from the great state of Texas that we know and love well, really taking on this charge. But it's, there's still a lot of work to be done in the tech space in terms of protecting kids, especially online. And I know parents are always concerned about that. So this is a good step in the right direction.
That's what Ted Cruz posted on X, responding to President Trump speaking at the event before signing, saying, quote, "Predators who weaponize new technology to post this exploitative filth will now rightfully face criminal consequences, and big tech will no longer be allowed to turn a blind eye to spread this vile material." And it's true. If you are somebody who is using this to your advantage to make money and profit off of women and children and creating this content, like, yes, you deserve criminal consequences.
Straight to jail. Straight to jail. Maybe not, but
straight to jail. Probably. A little bit, yeah. Well, so someone who on Capitol Hill who has been incredibly supportive and vocal about supporting the Take It Down Act is Representative Nancy Mace. And she actually held a hearing earlier this week on the Oversight Committee, really highlighting these issues of the exploitation of women. And she is someone who's a victim herself and took the time to share her own story during this hearing of her ex-fiance had recorded videos of her and pictures that she didn't know without her consent that he had. And then she discovered he had done this reportedly to all of these other women. And so it was interesting, though. There was a lot of conversation on social media about the approach that Congresswoman Mace took, because while we've seen there's bipartisan support to say, absolutely, we have to protect women, we have to protect kids, we have to protect people's images, their videos, and their privacy. And everyone agrees on that. But it was interesting how Representative Mace sort of promoted this hearing, because she wrote on X, she said, "Today I will show my naked body on one of the videos predator and rapist Patrick Bryant took of me and many other women." Now, to be clear, she didn't really show her naked body. It was a silhouette, but we have this clip of her speaking, so let's go ahead and roll that.
This naked silhouette is my naked body. I didn't know that I had been filmed. I didn't give my consent. I didn't give my permission. And this particular video that Patrick Bryant recorded of me on his secret camera, he saved for over 3 years without my knowledge. I didn't pick this fight. I don't even want to be here today and discuss this. But because he's still roaming around South Carolina free, filming whatever genital parts he wants, because no one has held him accountable, he's not in jail, he's not had to pay a fine, no restitution.
So in response to the hearing and Congresswoman Mace's kind of touting, I'm going to show my naked body as part of this hearing and all this stuff, the Babylon Bee, I feel like they often just cut through the noise to kind of say what many people are thinking. So I pay attention to their headlines. So the Babylon Bee put out this headline saying, "Nancy Mace says she'll release as much naked footage of herself as it takes to fight exploitation of women." And there's a level where I'm like, ooh, yeah, I do wonder, Congresswoman, like, I don't know. What did you all think of Mace's strategy here?
I mean, politics, half of it is messaging, it's rhetoric, it's not just the intent, unfortunately. Well, actually, no, fortunately, but, and she knows this. And it's just kind of unfortunate because I feel like a lot of times, not just Representative Mace, but a lot of people in Congress, it's like showboat. Like, let's make it about me. Let's see how I can make this a great optics moment for me. And then it just overshadows the point and what they're trying to champion. And I'm just like, come on. That's all I saw on Twitter yesterday, were all these like male Twitter accounts, burner accounts talking about like, oh, she tricked us and all this stuff. I'm like, guys, come on. Do you even know what she was talking about?
Yeah.
She didn't try to make that clear either. So
You're missing the point.
To your point, is about relevancy. I feel like a lot of Congress members and just anyone in politics, like they're doing as much as they can to stay relevant. Obviously, like the story is horrible, and like, you know, I wouldn't wish this upon anybody of like having that type of content shared and like captured of women. But the way she went about it, I did think was very interesting. Like the verbiage online, like, I'm going to show my naked pictures. Maybe like it didn't come off as, you know, this is an issue that we really care about and should care about. Kind of like, you know, how the Take It Down Act was talked about versus how this was talked about. It just, it felt a little bit more crass to me.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, the approach is not for me. But that being said, what better way to get a lot of eyes on an obscure Oversight Committee hearing? But then also, is it the right kind of eyes? Like prying eyes that are just like, oh, I want to see what Nancy Mace is talking about. What is she going to show? Are they people that are actually there for the content of the hearing?
Well, I'm curious if it drew anyone in, and then they were like, wait, but this is actually very important. And like they
Maybe
became
it was a teaching lesson?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Did you guys think that?
I mean, there is the age-old principle of, you know, no news is bad news, no publicity is bad publicity. Like it definitely got a lot of attention, got a lot of people talking about the issue, maybe engaged some folks that don't need to be engaged.
So is it good attention?
Yeah, is it good attention? TBD. TBD.
I mean, we're talking about it.
It's true. That's
She got
true.
people talking about it.
Yeah. She did get us talking about it. Well, and I do like the heart behind it. I have to believe is good. You know, she really understands that this is an issue, because when you've been personally affected and personally felt victimized, then it does give you, I think, this level of authority, obviously, to talk about an issue that's so, so critical, and one that Americans are uniting around. But yeah, at least this week we got the Take It Down Act. So we're moving in the right direction on this issue. So that's a win. But if you're Hillary Clinton, you think that all conservative women are moving in the wrong direction, in a very oppressive direction. So Crystal, you highlighted this for me.
Yeah.
You just find all these things.
I spend too much time on Twitter, honestly.
Never too much time on Twitter.
I don't know how I missed this, because I can't remember off the top of my head the name of the conference that she spoke at, but it was back on May 1st.
May 1st in New York City.
In New York City, and it wasn't really uncovered until about a week ago from when we're recording, and the Daily Caller News Foundation got the footage, and they released the tapes, and they're damning, may I say.
Let's go ahead and roll this clip of Miss Hillary Clinton.
Advice do you have the first female president of the United States?
Well, first of all, don't be a handmaiden to the patriarchy, which kind of eliminates every woman on the other side of the aisle, except for very few. Lisa Murkowski.
Liz Cheney.
Yeah, there's a few. Look, first we have to get there, and it is, you know, obviously so much harder than it should be.
All right, so this idea that if you are a conservative woman, if you're a conservative woman, if you're a Republican woman, with the exception of some women who claim to be Republicans but are not, like Liz Cheney, that you are a handmaiden to the patriarchy.
I think maybe we should change the name of the show from Problematic Women
to Handmaidens.
to Handmaidens of the Patriarchy. What?
What is with the left's obsession with this handmaid
I
imagery?
just think they like to dress up. They just like costumes.
They're just theater kids. They're literally theater kids.
I think
They're
they
literally theater
genuinely think that conservative women like go home to their husbands and like they're bound by these chains, and all they do is reproduce babies and cook, and they're like super oppressed. And like I see videos on Instagram all the time. Like you have like the trad wife kind of era that's on social media, but then you also have the complete opposite of like, you know, all these women are just trad wives. We have to reject the patriarchy. We have to reject what these conservative voices are putting out there, like whether it's birth control, whether it's staying at home and cooking, raising children. It's like, oh, these are bad things. Like you should instead, you know, work a job or be Hillary Clinton on a stage and be a failed politician and like write books. So there's no in between, but I just think it's really interesting how like the left truly is obsessed with the idea that conservative women are just oppressed all the time.
Yeah, all the time. They can't handle it. And it's this kind of modern version of feminism, right? Where it's like, unless you agree with our talking points and toe the line and follow our rules, then you're obviously a fascist.
And isn't that patriarchal in and of itself, by saying like, oh, women don't know better. These women don't know better. The men are just telling them what to think, because obviously not all women are strong enough to have their own independent opinion.
Exactly how I
right?
But it's so ironic too. I mean, we talk about this ad nauseum. Someday, hopefully, we'll be done talking about this. But this is the same class of women, these elite women who quote unquote champion all women, support women, etc. And they couldn't be doing anything further from that, right? They're typefacing conservative women as oppressed robots that can't think for themselves, when in fact, truly, conservative women are strong. We have a mind of our own and have no problem going to work if we want to, and or staying home and raising a family if we're able to.
I would argue that conservative women are less like the Handmaid's Tale than liberal women are, because it feels like liberal women are the ones that are intellectually bound in this little box. Like, you know, if you think like me, then great, you're a feminist. But any woman outside of this little box, you know, you guys aren't allowed in.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think is so ironic about this, because then as as Hillary Clinton goes on in the clip, she's like, you know, we have to get to the point where we have our first female president, and you know, we're a long way from that. It's like, okay, well, this is why. Because you open your mouth, you insult half the women in America, and then you're like, gosh darn it, we're a long way from having a female president. And like, really? Like, you've just insulted half the country, and now you're complaining about the fact that you didn't get elected to the presidency.
And honestly, how pathetic that this is a former First Lady of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, on display this week, well, this was a while back, but the footage is now coming to light, right?
Yeah.
On display this week, we have Melania Trump passing the Take It Down Act, standing up for women, championing girls. And then you have Hillary Clinton and this elite cabal of leftists that are like, meh, unless you're with us, you're against us.
Yeah.
It's like, relax.
And that's such an interesting point of comparison too, because I feel like for a long time there were all these Hillary Clintons of the world, and they would, you know, scream and moan and all this stuff. But now that we actually have a class act in the White House and multiple class acts, like her, Usha Vance, who, what have you, they're all just like in their own lane. They're doing their own thing. They're not trying to tear down the other side too much. And just that point of comparison, you're like, oh my gosh, like it's night and day.
It's night and day.
So we're never going to live in a country where everyone thinks the same, everyone dresses the same, everyone looks the same. That's a good thing. Yeah. And it's like, obviously the right and the left are always going to have issues with each other. But the more that we continue, I feel like, to tear each other down instead of, you know, looking to where can we have bipartisan impact in the country and better the country, it's just going to continue being negative. And I do think that we need to be moving in a direction like that's not Hillary Clinton speaking bad about all women, because I think there's a large part of the left that genuinely view conservatives as evil.
Yeah.
Well, and part of what got President Trump reelected was this segment of the population, especially women, that really just voted for common sense.
Yeah.
They wouldn't, you know, cast themselves as conservative or Republican. They're just like, that is crazy nonsense. Don't want anything to do with that. This seems more like common sense. I just want to live a normal life and raise my kids and get to soccer practice. I don't want to deal with this nonsense, right?
Exactly.
And like, that is who I think is hurt the most by Hillary Clinton's comments.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just wild to see that the left has doubled down on this rhetoric. Like, Hillary Clinton should know by now, like, she's lost a couple times. Like, she should understand this doesn't work. This rhetoric doesn't work. It's not working, hon. Like, change it.
It's not 2016 anymore.
Not 2016.
Hillary, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Well, we have a very important day just around the corner.
We sure do. Okay, I brought the notes because I've been up since 3 a.m.
God
and
bless
like
you.
we're tracking this reconciliation bill. So that's where my brain is. My brain is not on the military and Memorial Day, but I'm going to attempt to make it so. Okay, so this weekend is Memorial Day. Little anecdote here. It's also World Pride Week. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm proud of my military.
But DCA, Reagan National Airport, changed their like DCA statue to be rainbow in celebration of World Pride Week. And that really triggered me. I was like, why don't we just like make it an American flag and be like, oh, happy Memorial Day. Thanks to everyone who's fought and served and died for our country.
It's like when Biden put, what was it, Easter Sunday or something like
Oh
that?
yeah, Trans Day of Awareness.
Yeah.
They just,
One playbook.
you can't. Anyway, so we don't need a history lesson on Memorial Day or why it's important. We know that many people have fought for our country, served well. They've been, killed in the line of duty. I grew up near a military base and have a lot of military in my family, so near and dear to me. But this week, a couple big news items out of the Trump administration. Secretary Hegseth announced a full-blown investigation into the Afghanistan withdrawal. Now, we can play the clip or not. I'm sure everyone remembers the horrifying image of the plane taking off, of Afghanis trying to grab onto the wheel well, doing whatever they could in a desperate attempt to flee a failing country. And there hasn't really been a ton of accountability since. President Biden, not a whole lot came from that. The House GOP held a couple of hearings where they found some alarming things. And over the last few months, Secretary Hegseth has really dove into this issue. And yesterday, Tuesday? Again.
Yeah.
The days
Tuesday.
are weird.
It was Tuesday.
Secretary Hegseth announced that the Pentagon will be embarking on a full and complete investigation of the withdrawal. And this is amazing because what President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have brought to the world stage is a sense of moral clarity, right? Really declaring right and wrong. And looking at this Afghanistan withdrawal where 13 U.S. service members were killed in a suicide blast as really a mark on American military history, like a really bad mark. Like, this is not what we want. This is not the tone we want to set for our allies, right? And Secretary Hegseth brought up in his confirmation hearing, the Afghanistan withdrawal, the botched withdrawal, is what opened up the opportunity for Hamas to attack Israel on October 7th, for Putin to invade Ukraine and cause that whole debacle. So it really is about restoring strength on the world stage and really bringing that moral clarity back. Yeah. So this is huge. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's really got to be incredibly, in some ways, healing for family members, for the family members of those 13 whose lives were lost during the withdrawal, and then for every individual who served in Afghanistan, every family member who lost a loved one serving in Afghanistan, was injured in Afghanistan. For those individuals, family members, to know, okay, finally we're going to get the truth, some accountability of what happened. Because I mean, to spend years in a country and really in a matter of hours to watch everything crumble, just speaking, and Crystal, I know you've had many a conversation with members of the military, I have as well, of just really the confusion of what did we spend our lives,
more than a decade,
time giving to watch it all crumble that fast. What on earth went wrong? And especially all the American people deserve an answer to that question, but especially those whose lives were impacted by that war.
When after the withdrawal, seeing how the 13 service members didn't even want anything to do with President Biden, I think was one of the most heartbreaking things, because they had just lost their loved ones, and it felt like our government was doing absolutely nothing for these families other than just the bare minimum. There was no remorse. There was no thankfulness for, I feel like, all the service members that have fought and served in Afghanistan. And when you're looking at an issue like this, the confusion for not just the conservatives, but also the left in the country, like, they deserve answers too. Like, this was something I remember on social media. It wasn't a polarized left or right issue. It was like everybody was upset with how botched the withdrawal was. How could America, one of the leading power countries in the world, allow something like this to happen? And we had Biden, a almost vegetable, controlling everything and being commander in chief. And I think it was just like an entire flaw. And it was one way, I think, that pre-Trump's now election was a big shadowing effect of, like, we can't let him be president again. Like, we need President Trump back to fix this. And Secretary Hegseth, I think, is doing the right thing of, exposing this.
And this is such a great thing to celebrate on Memorial Day too, remember on Memorial Day, because with politicians, this feels like an instance where it would usually just be lip service. We're so sorry to the families, all this kind of stuff. So to see the difference from President Biden's botched withdrawal, the way that they handled that, and then just kind of not really touching it too much during his very short-lived campaign, to President Trump campaigning on, we're going to bring justice to these families, promises made, promises kept, and they're actually doing something about it instead of just apologizing. That's huge. And that sends a really strong message to the families, to America, and then to the world.
Which is a huge point, Elise, that you make, is promises made, promises kept. That was something that President Trump campaigned on. Another thing that he campaigned on and signed an executive order about in January was also announced in the same press conference, and that's this idea of a golden dome. It's modeled after Israel's Iron Dome, and it really is a nod to the Reagan era, where Reagan was like, we need, what do you call it, Star Wars or something? We need to figure out how to stop these ICBMs, these missiles from coming at the time during the Cold War. The threat was Russia, from potentially, attacking the United States. And now President Trump is announcing this Golden Dome with partners from across not just the defense industry, but also the tech industry, which is really cool and really exciting that, like, Silicon Valley is going to have a stamp on this concept. So, you just got back from Israel. Their Iron Dome, I believe, only let in like one or a half of a missile when they were under a barrage of missile attacks.
I think it's like some of the shrapnel we'll get through sometimes, but like that's it.
Yeah.
It's incredible, like incredible to have that technology. And there is a part of me that's like, why is it taking us this long to have, like, we're America, my goodness. So I love the fact that Trump is moving forward with this. I think it's going to be a huge stimulator of the economy as well. This is a massive project. It's going to require a lot of really brilliant people figuring out how do we implement this and do it well and do it effectively. And I love, it's so Trump that it's called the Golden Dome. Of course. Like, of course it's gold.
Played it in gold.
Played it in gold. And it's Trump's.
I believe he said that it should be done and functional by the end of his term. So
Yeah,
the
he
next
did.
3 years, which,
Yeah.
okay, maybe this is a stupid question, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who's thinking this. What exactly does that look like? Is it like the picture where it's like a big
So it's
actual
multiple
dome, or is it like they're just shooting
There's
stuff down
different
from the
units.
sky?
Think of
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, there's like, I remember seeing what the Iron Dome looks like when I was in Israel a couple years ago, and it's probably the size of like 2 of these rugs, really tall. Like it's like a mini building almost, but it contains multiple different units, and there is a kind of unit close by where there's someone monitoring to where, like, if a missile is coming in, they can send it off, and it also has a lot of detection technology. So I am curious how they're going to accomplish this in such a short amount of time and also implement them. I think these are going to have to be more long-range projectiles that are going to, in the event, like, need to intercept a missile, just because think of the size of Israel versus the size of America. You know, is this just going to be implemented on the border, like Texas, California, and then like East Coast? Like, where is this going to be implemented? And obviously America, the United States, is not an active war zone right now, but in the event, which I hope we never have to use it, or that's the case, but I do think it's a good idea. You know, we're constantly being threatened, I feel like, in the grand scheme of things, and so why not actually protect our own country in the event something has to happen? But I'm curious what the maintenance and like how many personnel, like what the actual military personnel, how many people will be needing to man these, because it is going to have to be in restricted areas. They are going to have to be put in kind of, I'm imagining, kind of all over, scattered throughout, and what is the range of every projectile? Like, I feel like there's a lot of technical questions that need to be answered, but I do think the concept is really cool.
Well, and Trump said that Canada wants in on it
Yes,
too.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, well, one of the leaders on this is the state of Alaska, right? So I'm sure we'll figure out a way for like basically all of North America to be covered by this Golden Dome if Canada wants in. That's great. They're going to pay their fair share per President Trump. But the man leading this effort is a 4-star Space Force general, which is exciting because Space Force was also one of President Trump's initiatives. So to see it kind of come full circle in this moment is neat. But from what I understand, it's all of the above. It's sea, air, land, and space components. So as we learn more about this, I think it'll be exciting. We should have someone on the show.
Imagine some
who, like,
satellite
gets
missiles.
the tech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like a satellite
Yeah.
projectile coming into orbit. I don't know. Like, you know, I feel like we are talking like it is 100 or something. like it's so many years in advance. Like the technological advancements when it comes to like defense is crazy. What's coming out.
It is really, really
Very
wild.
exciting.
It's incredible.
Restoring moral clarity on the world stage.
Yeah.
That's Trump's foreign policy.
Big deal. And so critical with everything that's happening in Iran and those negotiations that are ongoing. It's like, we need this. We need this to happen now. Well, if you want more news every single day, if you love problematic women, but you're like, I need more, give me more, then you need to check out the Daily Signal's Top News in 10 podcast. Our colleague, Tony Kinnett, produces that every single day, every single weekday. And it's just 10 minutes, quick rundown of the news, straight on whatever podcast platform or YouTube that you like listening. And Tony brings you the top 3 news stories of the day. So check that out if you need a quick bite rundown of the news. And I also want to say we have an announcement coming at the end of the show today. So make sure, keep watching until the end. But Elise, pop culture, pop off.
Our little brain candy for the day. So like we started talking about at the beginning of this episode, President Trump, he tweets like a middle schooler, and I love it. Like, just absolutely go into his burn book, aka his Truth Social account, says whatever he wants. Sometimes it's actually very important, but these things are fun too. And he said, has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot? And we had a little bit of discourse about this here, and I feel like I have a pretty good gauge of what women think on this. It's pretty nuanced. Whether they think she's attractive or a hot commodity anymore, there's, a lot of nuanced opinions. But I posted about this on Twitter, X, and my male audience members did chime in when I asked, do you agree with President Trump? And here are some comments. Some of them just said, I agree. I do think she's not hot anymore. Definitely a double meaning. And then this person had a very thoughtful response, which I really appreciate. Rando Coleman.
Rando.
I still think she's very attractive, and I still think she's developed incorrect political beliefs. The issue, she surrounds herself with a cast of very gay liberals, and virtue signaling is critical to her self-worth. Songwriter, yes. Cause-effect analyst, no. So I'm just
a nice response. Thoughtful.
It's very, very thoughtful. Although on the virtue signaling part, she did a little bit of that back in like 2019 through like 2021. She had her big Kamala endorsement right after that failure of a debate. But other than that, she is very not political compared to so many other pop stars. I mean, Olivia Rodrigo was giving out Plan B at one of her concerts till someone caught her. So I don't know. I think that's something where I'm like, I'll defend Taylor Swift on that end where she's not overtly political.
I was gonna say, I think she could be more political if she really wanted to. Like the fact that during, I feel like the whole election season, she only posted a, register to vote once, but she didn't explicitly say which side. And she did get probably conservatives to register to vote. And then the Kamala endorsement, obviously, which felt very just forced, casual. Like it wasn't very thought out. And so, do I agree with her politics? No. Is her music good? I think objectively, yes, she's a huge pop star. Is she hot? I think every single man will be like, no, she's not very attractive.
So I'm really curious, why do you guys think men in general just don't think Taylor Swift's hot? Because they were being very mean in the comments, and on Twitter they were saying she looked better in her 1989 era, which she had an eating disorder. Like, that is so rude. So why do you think men just don't think she's hot?
I don't know that
it's
I can
the
say
female
it out loud.
gaze. It's the female gaze versus the male gaze. If you look at an artist like Madison Beer, for example, she is a male gaze performer. She has kind of like that Megan Fox look. Megan Fox as well. We all know her from Transformers. She has that male gaze. Men are obsessed with that kind of look. And then when you see somebody like Taylor Swift, I know there's a lot of memes out there about her body, which I think is really sad. Like, you shouldn't do that. But she doesn't have that male gaze kind of.
Taylor Swift is a classic American girl look. Like, she's beautiful. She's just a classy woman. But yeah, it's not the same as the Megan Fox.
It's kind of that age-old debate too. We have in our office a lot, which is, do women dress for men or do they dress for other women?
They dress for other women.
I'm on that team. That's my team.
Yeah. We all dress for each other.
And if you ask like men too, like two different outfits of you dressing for women versus dressing because you think societally this will look good on you, men will usually find that one more attractive. And I think this goes back to like deep-rooted like feminist issues of like how women are portrayed in just pop culture and how they're portrayed on billboards and things, of what men are seeing versus what women deep down aspire to want to look like, and it isn't what is promoted by society. And I think Taylor Swift honestly has done a great job. If you watch her concert, she's not in skimpy outfits, she's not wearing lingerie, she's not doing any provocative moves.
It's not like overly sexualized.
It's not. It's a more theatrical experience, and that's something that I've always respected about her concerts and her craft, is she doesn't have to utilize being a hot, sexy woman to sell music.
Well, I don't know too much about her parents, but I think she was raised with pretty traditional values. I know her dad's a business owner. Like, I think she comes from a pretty solid foundation, which I'm also guessing has influenced her awareness of, okay, maybe I'm not going to lean too heavily into the political side, because I think her roots, honestly, are pretty conservative.
There was a scene in her Lover documentary, Miss Americana, about her on the phone with her dad, just absolutely crying. She's like, I can't not say anything against Donald Trump. And he's like, I don't know, you probably shouldn't. And she's like,
but your father.
She's like, I have to. And that's like as political as she's ever gotten.
The Lover album.
Yeah. But then I think it's interesting because she pulled back from that. And that's where I feel like business-minded Taylor Swift comes in, where she saw that there was some pushback and she was like, this is a little risky to my business model. So I'm going to pull back from that political
Conservative Swifties was also trending for a while, because there are a lot of Taylor Swift fans who are conservative women who just like her music and like her for who she is. And I think she's starting to notice that a lot more, especially post-Lover. I mean, Lover was arguably one of her worst performing albums, especially especially with, I mean, Lover, her music video, You Need to Calm Down, Me with Panic at the Disco. You know, it was very rainbow, very flashy. And Swifties didn't like it.
Yeah,
not her.
So
And maybe TBD, we'll see what this like next era of Taylor Swift is like.
Reputation Taylor's version, please.
I'm very excited for that. And on the music front, Lorde, she also just had her comeback. She releases an album like every 4 years, which I would really love if she didn't do that, if it was quicker. But she has like a great rollout with her albums every single time. This past week, she did an interview with Rolling Stone, sit-down interview, talked about her healing process, her past 4 years, her journey through music. She's been famous since she was 14 years old. She's now 28, I believe. So she's not really ever lived a normal life. And she said something very interesting in her interview. She said that she went off birth control for the first time since she was 15 years old. And she said, I've now come to see my decision as maybe some quasi-right-wing programming, she admits, but I haven't ovulated in 10 years, and when I ovulated for the first time, I cannot describe to you how crazy it was. One of the best drugs I've ever done. That's insane.
Insane.
She talks a lot in her interviews and just in her little fan voice memos, her emails, how she relies a lot on psychedelic drugs to help her creative process. She sings about it. So to hear her say that just ovulating
Birth control messed me up.
Seriously. And she had to admit, like, oh, she said quasi right-wing propaganda, but I'm like, I don't know, is it right-wing propaganda, or is it
taking
just
care of your body right-wing propaganda now?
Yeah.
Then okay, I'm all in.
And I actually pulled some stats, and these are legitimate stats from scientific journals on what birth control does to your body. First off, it can cause blood clots. Hailey Bieber actually talks about this. She said she was really close to having a stroke once because of her birth control mixing with other medicines and all the stuff. It really can mess up your gut biome. I know a lot of people are put on birth control to fix their skin if they're having like cystic acne, whatever, but actually it really weakens the gut flora, so that can affect your skin, your energy, your mood, your weight. Just don't mess with that. It poses a 3 times higher risk of suicide, according to the American Journal of Psychiatry. Sorry, I can read my own handwriting, which is insane. And I think, you know, that kind of plays into her whole, like, this was a high, her emotions were probably muted. And this is my favorite stat. Being on birth control makes you have a weaker preference for masculine men.
Yes.
We just talked about this a couple
2
weeks ago on the show
Yep.
with Grace Stark, who is a fertility expert. And that's a real thing. And they're starting to have studies come out that's like your brain is wired completely different when you're on birth control, when you're messing with your hormones.
So I'm really interested to see. Lorde dated Jack Antonoff, the music producer, skinny little cigarette looking dude. Love him. And then this other guy. So is her next boyfriend gonna be like Travis Kelce?
I was gonna say, is Taylor Swift still on birth control? Because she went, I feel like, polar opposites as well, from you know, kind of liberal English British man to Travis Kelce. But I do think this Lorde article that came out, like, I think highlights in a really important issue, because think about, you know, those women who, you know, want to get off birth control, but they feel like it's like a right-wing thing. And this is rhetoric that I feel like is very new on social media, that getting off birth control, taking care of your body, rejecting what is put in our bodies, like chemicals with food, like whatever it may be, is considered now that quasi right-wing propaganda. Like, this
is insane.
It's crazy that, you know, caring about your body is right-wing, but instead inject yourself with fake hormones is caring about your body.
That's totally cool.
It's delusional.
It's the voices on the left that are pushing this narrative. It's not conservatives saying, to be a conservative, to be a God-fearing American, you have to get off birth control and like be like, it's the left that's pushing these really harmful, literally toxic narratives, toxic to your body. And then they say that they're champions for women. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, think about why our birth rate's down, why marriage rates are down. I do think that birth control is directly correlated to these numbers because of what it is doing to women. And like, I don't think birth control needs to be something that is super politicized either. And it feels like the left has made it a political issue. Like, they genuinely think that SWAT teams are going to show up to their house and take their birth control pills. Like, no one's going to do that. But, you know, maybe informed consent read what you're actually taking. And if you still want to take it, like, okay. But like, I was on birth control for 7 years and I've now been off it for 2. And like, I can personally see those changes and effects of being on versus being off.
100%.
And it's wild what I feel like women go through, like our cycles and knowing who you are, your hormones, like it's very important.
Yeah. So critical. Wow. Okay. We have a fun announcement. So as problematic women, we've changed and shifted a few things over the years, but a fun one, we are going to be your weekend show from now on. So Problematic Women is shifting from releasing on Thursdays, Wednesdays on YouTube and Rumble, and then on podcast platforms on Thursdays, to now releasing on Saturday mornings across all platforms. So we're doing this because we realized there's not actually as much great conservative content released on Saturdays as there should be. And so we want to be your go-to when you wake up on Saturday morning and you're pouring that cup of coffee, or you're going on your morning run, whatever it might be, or you're starting your car trip to drive home to your parents, whatever. Plug us in. We would love to share Saturday mornings with you. So starting next week, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we will be catching you on Saturday mornings on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. You can find us there. And don't forget to hit subscribe and like so that you don't miss out on our brand new shows that are now going to release on Saturday morning. But thank you guys. This is great. Well done.
Have a good week, ladies.
Have a great week.